Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our June WorkWell Forum. We have a really exciting topic for everyone today around mental health, and I think very serendipitous that this has actually been planned for quite some time, but more relevant now than it was when we initially planned it. So really excited to hear from our presenter today. Just to get us started, a couple of housekeeping items. We will be sharing a link to both the slides and the documents that our presenter is sharing today. So that will be coming out following our presentation today, along with a link to actually view the presentation. If you do have questions today, if you can go ahead and drop those in the chat box, and we will follow up on those after or at the close of the presentation today. And I also just want to recognize all of our sponsors for Wellness A to Z that make not only WorkWell forums like this happen, but also help contribute to the quarterly newsletters that we are also sending out, and the Live Well Now communications that we've been sending out over the last couple of weeks as we've navigated our new remote work environment. So our sponsors are Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Equality Health, Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Cigna, Delta Dental, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and also Humana. And again, just want to thank them for making this a complimentary service for all of our Wellness A to Z employers. And to go ahead and kick things off today, I want to introduce our speaker, Maya Nahra with Nuuaria. And Maya is the founder of Nuuaria, which is a health and wellness company that helps people change by teaching them how to think differently. She created the Nuuaria method, which is an evidence-based habit and behavior change work education in the areas of chronic disease and stress reduction. And Maya's programs are also active with some of our local companies, including Ping Golf, CVS Health, and also a couple of school districts here locally. Maya is a registered dietitian of over 10 years. She's a diplomate of the American Institute of Stress, which I can't wait to hear about. She's a student and a teacher of human change, and she also lives the essentialism lifestyle and secretly wants to live on a vineyard and make wine. And Maya, I would love to join you in doing that. So with that, I will turn it over to Maya.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Yep, I think now is the time that everyone would really like to join us on that vineyard and make some wine. So cool. Thank you guys so much for doing this and for putting this on. Like Jennifer had mentioned that we had planned this, I think it was even last year, and the timing of this is quite serendipitous indeed. So allow me to, we have a lot to cover in a really good way. So allow me to just get started. I'm going to share my screen here and pop in the PowerPoint. Okay. Let me make sure, yeah, there we go. Okay. Let me know if you guys can't see it. There we go. So mental health as we transition back to the workplace. As Jennifer had mentioned, my name is Maya, founder of Nuuaria Wellness, and yes, a diplomat of the American Institute of Stress. So the agenda for today looks like this. I'm going to go through the intention of what we want to accomplish today. Some of the statistics, which you already know, so I'm going to go through those a little bit quickly. However, it is important to Nuuaria. Statistics are important to us, so we like to provide those for you. What is everyday mental wellness? Because it's a little bit different than how we traditionally think about mental health. Where does it really come from? So I'm going to give you a practical application as it relates to your life, so you can really understand where true stress comes from. And then popular programs, I pulled a few for you, and then what we can learn from them. There's actually 7 best practices and guidelines that we can apply. And then we here at Nuuaria have put together a 3-step implementation process for you, which is expanded upon in a separate PDF. My intention, of course, is to give you everything you need to get started, something right now. Whatever size company you are, whatever kind of budget you have, we want to help. So I do want to open with this, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself here in a second. So I reached out to Dr. Daniel Kirsch. He's the president of the American Institute of Stress, who I've worked with for many years. And I asked him, I told him I was presenting to you guys today, and I said, hey, Dr. Dan, what do you want to share with everyone? And this is what he wrote. I won't go through all of it, but he did say that, you know, while some people are prospering right now, most people have had catastrophic disruptions in their lives. And for those who are going back to work, there's extra stress around this. You're going to be employees are going to be in close proximity to others after avoiding people to stay alive, which is a whole new level of stress. So now is a good time, as he says, not only to practice stress management, but what he says, the golden rule. So let's take this opportunity to reboot America in a powerful way by being kind and thoughtful rather than angry and reactive. So I thank you, Dr. Dan, for sharing this with us today. Quick brief background on Nuuaria. Who is Nuuaria? So we've been around since 2012, 8 years. This is our team. We work in the public and corporate sector, and the difference is that we teach people, as Jennifer said, how to think differently. We believe that thinking is the cause and behavior is the symptom. So when we use brain science and neuroscience, which I'll reference today, that's when we get the real permanent change. So just a super brief background. Yes, I have been a registered dietitian for over 10 years. I come to you from a lot of personal experience. Many years ago, I had become a registered dietitian because my health was so bad. And many years later, I went into more of the mental health space because I had hit burnout twice in my life. And I had gone on medications for anxiety and depression, and I was just always looking for a better way out. And everything that you'll learn today, grounded in science, is the better way that I found out, which we now, that's all we want to do, is to be able to share it with the world. And so we do hope that it helps you in some way. This is just a brief slide on some of the clients that we do serve. So that way you just know who is sharing information with you today. As I mentioned, so stats are really important for us here at Nuuaria. So I'll go through the stats fairly quickly because you're already here. You already know that this is something that's important for you. Pre-COVID-19, before all of this, why is stress important? 83% of workers suffer from work-related stress. The Wall Street Journal attributed $190 billion in excess cost to workplace stress. Enough to place all of this sixth amid causes of death, with the 120,000 annual deaths. Wellable, many of you have seen this. Wellable came out pre-COVID-19 with a 2020 Wellness Investment Trends report, and they showed already pre-COVID-19 that 80% of companies and organizations, small, medium to large, were investing more in mental wellness programs and mental health. So fast forward, and myself and my team did a little bit of digging to find statistics post-COVID-19 on some stress and everyday mental wellness and what that looked like. So what they found, Ginger, some of you have already seen this, the American Journal of Managed Care came out with a statistic that nearly 7 in 10 employees indicated in a survey by mental health provider Ginger that the coronavirus, this pandemic, is the most stressful time in their entire professional career. And because of that, we have also seen a stark increase in new prescription medications. So they had also stated that under this pandemic, nearly 2/3, 62% of workers, are losing at least an hour of productivity every single day due to stress. This was from SHRM. SHRM actually did a survey. They published a whole PDF that was extremely insightful. And they showed that symptoms of depression have increased. People with burnout and feeling exhaustion have increased, and energy has decreased. They're coping, how people are able to cope. The 37% of people that really truly do need help aren't even reaching out with the depressive related symptoms that they're having. So I put that link, and remember, these slides are available to you. You can actually see that full report in that link from SHRM. So let's move on to the next component here. What is everyday mental wellness? Everyday mental wellness is someone's ability, an individual's ability to manage everyday less than desirable emotions while they work to eliminate their habitual return. I'll break this down for just a second here. Is this everyday mental wellness, we manage the less than desirable emotions. Less than desirable, I don't like to call them good or bad, right or wrong. They are just emotions that we don't like to feel. And they can, as we already know, impact our productivity, etc. So less than desirable emotions are things like stress, anxiety, frustration, overwhelm, hopelessness, depression, and despair. And then for a lot of us, stress is a habit. We've seen that stress and mental wellness and these less than desirable emotions we've experienced pre-COVID-19 as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit of science today that goes into what is the difference between managing them and actually eliminating them, which I hope shines some light on things for you. So in the workplace, everyday mental wellness, I want you to think about this as it's the place between this occasional stress that we experience and EAP. And there's a big gap in there. And that's really what this one actually fills. So where do less than desirable emotions really actually come from? And when we say less than desirable emotions, as I mentioned, this is what we're talking about here is stress, anxiety, overwhelm, depression, despair, hopelessness, frustration, confusion, busyness, worry, concern, anger, all of these emotions that we don't necessarily like to feel. Now, as a practical application and understanding, the best way to do this, and we always talk about it in Nuuaria, there's a difference between knowledge and integration. Most people know what to do and they're just not doing it. We all know that an apple is healthier than a candy bar, but making the choice is a whole different story. So we have a lot of knowledge, but the practical application and integration of that knowledge is where we're really at right now. And the way that we can best understand stress, I'd love for you just for a moment, I don't know what you're doing at home right now. We all are in different spaces and places and times, but take a second and just get real present here so we can work on your stress. Because when we know if you experience stress, when you know where your stress comes from, you'll have a much more integrated approach to being able to implement everyday mental wellness programming within your organization. And you will know, which we're going to help you with at the very end, is what is your very next right move for your organization. So let's take a look at you. Now, you don't have to share any of this. You can write this down on with a pen and paper, and it's just for your eyes. Again, you do not have to share this because some of it may get personal as we dive into your mind. What stresses you out? What stresses you out? According to the American Psychological Association, money is the top cause of stress in the United States. That certainly is changing in a big way. I'll talk about later on for you. There's a big difference between the everyday stressors that we've experienced, from money to relationships to job loss, to now basic safety and survival. Which I will tie that in for you, because our stressors, while our stressors haven't gone away, they have certainly, they are still there. The video thumbnails are minimized. Oops, I think I had clicked something. Optimize share for full screen.
It looks okay on our.
It does, okay, perfect. Oh, that's what popped up. Perfect. Uncertainty is certainly a big stressor. So I'm in the chat box too, and I'll flow with you guys too if you need anything, but uncertainty is a big stressor. I'll talk about the mind and how the mind works for you as well. So you can see where uncertainty is coming from. What stresses you out? And Jennifer, it's showing that my computer is running a little slow, so if something happens, let me know. How the brain works. So I'll go into this very briefly, is something that is going to be very important for you to know. Oh, the black boxes, I'll get rid of that. Is that better?
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Cool. So I got rid of all of the stuff on my screen. So let me know, Jennifer, just pop in if anybody has any questions or anything as I keep flowing through this. So briefly, let's talk about how the brain works. The brain, in a nutshell, here's me and here's you and here's our brain. We all have a brain inside of our head, but we are not our brain. And this brain that we have inside of our head has 70,000. They say the average is 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts in any one given day. So that's a lot of thoughts. Now, you and I, Jennifer and I, Melissa and I, we all have different lives. So we have different thoughts, but those thoughts can fall under categories, which we'll review in a second. Those thoughts can fall under categories such as perfectionism, all or nothing thinking, catastrophic thinking, like it's not if the sky's going to fall, but when the sky's going to fall. So individual thoughts can be categorized, kind of like a filing cabinet. When I pull it out, I can file those under a filing cabinet. Now, if I repeat a thought over and over and over and over again, that thought is going to become what we call a habit or a habit of thinking. Because the brain loves efficiency. The brain is wired for efficiency. You can see a picture of the brain on your screen. And those grooves in the brain, when I think a thought over and over and over again, the brain loves efficiency, so it's, in a nutshell, going to wire it in. Brain plasticity. Now, don't worry about this fancy word here. It simply tells us that we can learn how to think differently habitually. So, for example, if you're always thinking to yourself, I always play a bad golf game with Tom, or I don't know how I'm going to get this all done, I don't have enough time, or I'm sick of the same problem popping up all of the time. If those are some of the habitual thoughts that you have running through your head, brain science or brain plasticity, it is a sector or a portion of neuroscience, which simply tells us that while those are your habitual ways of thinking, they don't have to be. Because remember, you are your brain, so you can change how you think. So something I want to draw your attention to now is that your thoughts are driving your emotions. So when I had asked you what stresses you out, then what we're looking at here now is that your thoughts and what I'm thinking, I don't have enough time. How am I going to get this all done? That thought, although I am not that thought, but I have that thought in my head, it is driving my emotions. So how am I going to get this all done? That thought might actually bring me anxiety, stress, overwhelm, frustration. If I have a thought that says, I can do this, I am capable, I am confident, I've gotten this done before, that might cause a very different emotion. So the only thing that I really want to draw your attention here to for just a moment simply says that when it maybe is the traffic, which we haven't had much of, but it's coming back, when it's the traffic that stresses you out, when it is a job, a relationship, your bank account, it's not really those things, it's how you're thinking about those things. Because you and I could both be in traffic. We could both be sitting at the same red light. And I could be stressed out of my mind thinking I'm going to be late to work or something along those lines. And you're over here just cool as a cucumber. So what's the difference? It's in how we're thinking. So everyday mental wellness and our everyday emotions are actually coming from our habits of thinking. Now, I won't go through all of these, but I know that some of you can see yourself in this. And then we'll get to some of the popular programs that you can start implementing in your workplace. So a few of these here, these are general, most common habits. Thought, it just keeps replaying and replaying in my head. Catastrophic thinking, like I said, it's not if the sky's going to fall, it's when the sky's going to fall. Perfectionism, I think we all know what that is. Storytelling, we do this one a lot and we don't actually realize that we do it, is we tell stories and we make up stories in our head that aren't actually true, but then we go on thinking that we are our thoughts and we believe them, and they cause us a lot of stress and anxiety. Indecisiveness, that one's like a little mini personal hell. If you can't make a decision, that one's difficult to deal with. This one happens a lot in our health, all or nothing, black or white, all in, all out. Identity attachment, that's not me, I couldn't do that. People who just tend to love drama. Overthinking, that's a big one. I'm a fellow recovering overthinker. I don't have time. I don't feel like it. I don't deserve it. I can do it myself. Procrastination. The last one is actually a very detrimental to our forward progression, and that's not believing it's possible, especially when it comes to, say, changes in my mental state, changes in my overall health. The brain inside of our head only has access to past experience. And as it only has access to past experience, then if I want to create new health, if I want to create peace or joy as my everyday state, then it's going to be a little bit difficult because I have no past experience to base it on. However, it's just a thought inside of our head. So I bring you to the final point, which really says, why are you really stressed out? And that is because the thoughts you're thinking about the perceived stressor. The thoughts you're thinking about the perceived stressor. So how do we really fix it is the question. How do we really fix it? So I hope that this I wanted to break this down for you. And I want you to know that management and elimination of stress, neither is a right or wrong area. What is going to be the best option for your organization. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you okay.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. It said my audio stopped working. Perfect. Okay, so I'm leading you down a path that simply says, what do I want to choose for my organization? So if we have a circumstance, which is a perceived stressor, such as a new work project. So let's look at this as from an employee perspective. Here's a new work project. My thoughts, immediately my habitual thoughts, the thoughts that I think right off the bat are going to be, I can't do this. This is too much. I'm so busy. How am I going to get this done? I don't know how to do this. Okay, I can do this, right? I eventually get to that place. Now, we've already understood that my thoughts are creating my emotions. So now I can see the angst, I can feel the overwhelm, the action, of course, I get to project completion, and maybe I relieve my stress by going to the gym. Now, you can see at the very end that circumstance, I have a new work project, and this whole cycle starts to begin again. Right here in the blue or green is going to be the relief of my stress, and this is stress management. So when I offer something in my organization like a gym membership, it is in the realm of stress management, and as I say, there is nothing wrong with that. Now, let's look at another scenario here. So I have a perceived work stressor is our new work project. My thoughts are, I can't do this, this is too much, same thing. I'm feeling the same emotions. Now, not only do I complete the project and I go to the gym to relieve my stress, I also engage in a program at work where this person learns how to think differently, how to change my thinking that caused that deviation away from a positive mental health. So now, as I do this, the cycle starts new. This is the difference in stress elimination, which I know is a very powerful word for many of you. Remember, the brain only has access to past experience. So we think to ourselves oftentimes that that's not possible. Only management is possible. It is only a habit of the mind. We are, because of the state of everything, we are ready to take that next step. So we have a new work project, and because this employee has learned to think differently, well, now his initial thoughts, instead of the second thoughts, his initial habitual thoughts are, I could do this. I will get it done in the time that I allot, because he's learned to think differently. And so his emotions are very different. And now, not only does he complete the project with more productivity and creativity, but he stays, goes to the gym to stay healthy, and the intention is different. And now he achieves his health goals in a much easier way. So I say this to you because there are two kinds of remedies to everyday mental wellness in the programming that you are going to begin to implement, so to speak, in your organization. Some programs are like giving out training wheels, while others teach you how to ride a bike without them. It's like bumpers when you go bowling, right? And you need those bumpers at first, and you need those training wheels at first, which makes our efforts to deliver stress management within our work organization crucial to its first steps. Some of you are ready to go on and take the bumpers off and move into the stress elimination type programmings, which are simply around brain science and teaching people how to think differently, knowing that you want to manage your expectations depending on what you deliver in this area. So why is this more important than ever right now is that, you know, and it's really, we were mentioning this before we jumped on today, it's so, as we say, serendipitous that this mental health webinar is available to you right now. Last month with the Greater Phoenix Chamber and Wellness A to Z, Tori Mashad from Blue Cross Blue Shield was talking about how do we actually keep our employees safe getting back into the workplace. And you see, obviously I say in blue here, it's COVID-19 real bears. There's two kinds of stress. There's stress that's real and stress that's not real. So when I go back into my workplace, just like Dr. Dan, the president, the AIS, the American Institute of Stress, had mentioned, is that we, my friends, we were sent home because being close to people means that we could potentially die. And that's what's going through our mind. And now we're going back to work and we're going to have to be close to people again. That's really difficult. And so the first thing that we have to cover is how am I actually going to keep my employees safe? And the next logical step to talk about now is once I'm back in the workplace, how do I stay sane, healthy, and productive? Because now we're talking about fake bears. Now we're talking about, oh my gosh, I have a box full of emails and I don't know how I'm going to get it all done. That stress response is the same in both of these scenarios. I have the same exact stress response that produces ill health, that produces the less than desirable everyday emotions. While one is a real bear, what we do in everyday mental wellness is help to mitigate the impacts of the fake bears. So best practices and guidelines. So our last two sessions, or sections, excuse me, that I'll go through with you today is the 7 best practices and guidelines from popular programs, plus some fresh ideas for implementation. So we have 7 of these for you. The first one is that if it's mentionable, it's manageable, says Fred Rogers. Stigma has always been something. It's always been something that we have heard around mental wellness, everyday mental wellness. I'm not sure that I actually have to mention this to you, but I will anyway. COVID-19 and everything that's going on now has really ripped away it's really ripped away that thin veil that was the stigma. It's ripped away the stigma that says, how are you doing? Are you okay? I know that you've seen this. It's all over social media. It's all over our friends and our family and our lives is, how are you doing? Are you okay? This conversation is easier to have than it has ever been, which is actually quite amazing. These next slides, they just showcase a few anti-stigma campaigns. And that's what we're talking about here is anti-stigma. Just talk about it. The ICU program, if you believe your organization has some stigma around everyday mental wellness, these next ones are for you. The ICU program is DuPont had developed it. They take the analogy of an intensive care unit and they explain how people with emotional issues can actually use that ICU analogy to then identify signs and symptoms of stress between themselves and their coworkers. All of these three, the next two and this one, they are free and at no cost to you. So you can go to those websites and use those for your organizations. I Will Listen is a social media-based public service. And in companies and organizations, I Will Listen hosts what's called I Will Listen Days, and you can see the companies that have implemented that. And it just encourages people to compassionately begin to listen to other people. And lastly is the Right Direction. So this Right Direction initiative is specifically for companies and organizations. They have a lot of free resources for you, even PowerPoint presentations that you can use on your own, and it's kind of like a white label where you can go use it for your organization and company. And it does help communication, even between your C-suite and managers, to help educate employees on the signs and symptoms of depression. Number two, let me take a drink here. So number two is getting buy-in from the leaders. Now, I know that many of you know this one, of course, and you know the importance of this one, is getting the buy-in from leaders and making sure that this is an initiative that we want to start from the top. So Lakeside Industries, there's actually a case study here for you. They have a really good case study of how they started an everyday mental wellness program and what they did. And that whole case study is laid out there for you. They know that the importance, one of the things that they had mentioned in that study said, we want to see from the very, very beginning, one of the things that we've learned is get your leaders on board first as the very first thing that you do. As you know, we work with Karsten Ping, and the COO, Mike Trueblood, had, this is just an example of one of the components of getting your top on board, and they've had a wildly successful 12+ year running wellness program, and it's really because the top is on board. Number three is training the leaders. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can take this, training the leaders. And training leaders to identify emotional distress, just to know that, just to know where it's coming from. It's like some things that you want to look for, which isn't on this slide, and if it's important to you, you may want to write it down. Insomnia, if you have an employee that is always tired, they're not sleeping very well. Irritability, outbursts in anger, decreased mood, very blasé. Consuming caffeine, like lots of consuming caffeine or maybe even alcohol, low productivity and low achievement, regular absences, increased sick time, they're very accident prone, or maybe they're cynical and very defensive. These are all outward signs of distress that we can help with. Respect time off. We as leaders can help with. Respecting time off, providing adequate vacation time, and consider making it a policy that vacation time can be taken. My boyfriend actually works at Amgen, and they are doing this with their vacation time right now. They're making it mandatory. So consider taking time off, giving time off, respecting that. Renewing the job description, this one's really important. So for as long as we have worked in corporate wellness, one of the top stressors in a lot of companies and organizations, not all of them, has been that I'm afraid of losing my job. I'm afraid of losing my job. As Jennifer mentioned, we work with a lot of school districts, and right away they their job changed. How they did things changed, obviously because of COVID-19, and it brought them a lot of stress. So one of the real easy, free things that you can do is to continuously renew the job description. Have the leader, the manager, renew that and say, okay, we're in new times, we're in new spaces, we're in new places, here's the job. And that quells and calms the worry around losing their job or worrying that they're not doing a good enough job at their job. Next is helping employees manage their workloads. Us as the leaders, modeling work-life balance and doing that for ourselves, modeling that behavior is going to be incredibly important. I've always believed and said that it really truly starts with us and then moves out to the collective. We're all working to help other people. It's kind of like the reason that you go onto an airplane and they say, make sure you put on your mask first, right? The same concept goes here, is to put on your mask first. And that way we can help other people. Monitoring, just monitoring some of those signs in distress, of course, being welcoming to accommodations, and then ensuring that senior leaders routinely include language about emotional well-being when they talk about business issues. So just incorporating those into as regular language, incorporating them into meetings, all team meetings, incorporating them into any time that we talk to employees and newsletters, etc. Just having that as the front face is going to be really important. Number 4 is harnessing creativity. Now, I realize these are big, right? This is maybe not something that we're going to do in our organizations, depending on, maybe it is, maybe you're a larger organization. So Zappos, they partnered with Fender to create Strum for the Soul, which is a music program for Zappos employees. And Microsoft went and built tree houses. So harnessing creativity is, it is the opposite of stress. And having something, someplace, somewhere for something that harnesses creativity, that capitalizes on creativity of the employee, is going to help everyday mental wellness in a big way, even if that is something that is a quiet room in your organization, a quiet room where maybe you just play calming music, and it is a space and a place where an employee knows that they can go just to get quiet. That will increase that creativity as well. Setting the tone, you have the opportunity right now to set the tone, to move into positive perspectives. So a lot of the times up until now, mental health and mental wellness has really focused on resilience, it's focused on stress, it's focused on anxiety. And I encourage you to remember this, that rather than the absence of mental illness, mental health, everyday mental wellness refers to the presence of positive characteristics, to celebrate joy and peace and creativity and productivity and achievement and accomplishment, emotional well-being, to focus on those instead of the resiliency, the stress, the lost productivity, the anxiety, and the depression. You have the ability to flip the switch and talk about it in a new light. There's 7 of them. So this is 6, is have someone to talk to. Google has a program called Blue Dot, and they say it's like peer-to-peer counseling, but they wouldn't necessarily say peer-to-peer counseling because it's important that it does not replace professional therapy or medical care. And it's a metrics-free program, which is pretty cool. Blue Dot basically has any employee who wants to get involved, they give them the tools and education around compassionate listening, loving kindness. And so they have a little blue dot on their name tag. And so anytime that anyone sees an employee with a little blue dot on their name tag, then they know they can go up to that employee and say, hey, can I talk to you for a moment? We work with Osborne School District, and this is when we have someone to talk to, we supply one-to-one mentorship. And so I say this to you as an example of one-to-one mentorship and what that can do. Obviously, akin to Blue Dot program is someone to talk to. So based in, we use a lot of brain science and neuroscience to teach people how to think differently. And these are some of the results that we got in the first 90 days. So reducing overwhelm, frustration, all those less than desirable emotions while improving physical symptoms. Having someone to talk to, whether it is peer-to-peer or mentorship, is incredibly important with everyday mental wellness, because as you saw in the statistics, most people don't even reach out. Lastly, I want you to consider the basics. Go back to the basics. So as I mentioned in the beginning, Sherm put together a fantastic PDF that has a lot of or post-COVID-19 results. And we saw the exercise is decreasing, eating habits are not going well, and we're losing sleep, obviously, because of reasons of stress and our everyday mental wellness. So I say this to you in simplicity, is to don't forget about the basics and supporting the basics where we can. lastly, is our three-step implementation process. And this is easy. Again, my intention for you now is to know what is your next right move. Now that you know where stress comes from, we want to answer the question of what is my next right move? No matter the size, no matter your budget, whether you have a big one, whether you have a little one, or no one at all, and how many employees you have, this three-step implementation process will help you determine what is my next right move. So step one is know the facts and know your facts. Know the facts and know your facts. So Facebook VP of People says, think about what's right for your people and build from there. You'll want to assess, you'll want to survey, you'll want to find out where your people are now. And I highly encourage you, while you have done the assessments previously, we're in a new time and a new space and a new place. So I encourage you to do it again. And we have, at the end, I'll give you my email. We created at Nuuaria for you. We didn't create it. We gave you all of our questions that we use for the stress reduction program. It's in SurveyMonkey, and we'd be more than happy to just give it to you so you can use it for your employees too. So step two is strategic design, planning, and research. You know what, to be honest with you, which I think you already know, is developing a impactful program is like a business, right? So this craziness on the screen basically looks like this. Is at the very, very top, you have all of your employees. Now, we know that not everyone is going to engage in everyday mental wellness program. Now, at the very, very top, where it says number one, is up here we have our low cost, maybe no wellness budget or low cost. You have a really large reach, potentially a lower ROI, not necessarily, and often hard to measure. So your everyday mental wellness programming that falls into this area right here is going to be things like a free Headspace app. It's going to be things like a free gym membership. Now, as we go down into this funnel, which is literally a funnel, like a marketing funnel for a business, is the second one. Maybe you have level 2 programs, maybe you don't. Small wellness budget, you have a smaller, more interactive group. And at the very, very end, at the very, very bottom under number 3, this is where I want you to think about one-to-one mentorship. This is going to require probably a budget. It's going to attract a smaller group of people, but those are the people who are really, truly ready for change. I've always said that change doesn't happen until you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think many of us are hitting that breaking point in a very new way, which is another reason out of many today why everyday mental wellness is so important for you right now. So you can see off to the left-hand side is the number of participants. You're going to get a large number in like kind of tier 1 programs and a smaller number in tier 3. However, you're going to get much more robust tracking, reporting, and ROI on that. And then you'll have people in number 1 tier 1 who are just dipping their toes in, maybe a little bit lower commitment. And then we funnel them down and we offer something that is for people who are much more ready for larger change. So I share this with you because it helps you to devise a strategic everyday mental wellness program that meets your people where they're at. And it's just a visual to help you think about it. And lastly, step number 3 is implement, measure, course correct, and be consistent. It is that simple and that complicated. So the president and CEO of Beehive PR says, it can't be viewed, meaning your everyday mental wellness program, it can't be viewed and treated by leadership as the flavor of the month. It's a different practice for everybody, but consistency is the thread through all of it. And so now I have my program. I know what I need because I've done my assessments and surveys, etc. And then I've done some strategic planning. And next I want to implement. And after that implementation, I want to measure what happened. I'm going to have to course correct because nothing is ever perfect. But I know my goal is to get from here to here. And while I don't know the exact path to get there, what will get you there for sure is consistency. So I leave you with this. I have somewhat left my opinion out of this till now is, do you want your employees to be your greatest asset? And there's so much that has changed right now in our world that now is the time, and business is changing in a big way. And our employees, there's many ways for us to share with them that they are our greatest asset. And I'll leave you with this, is that this is from me. You can't really talk about everyday mental wellness without talking about your heart, without talking about vulnerability. This pandemic has really erased the lines between work and play and home life. And we can use this to our collective advantage right now. So being the first to stand up and speak and sticking out your neck and being bold, speaking for the people who are fearful of losing their jobs, this just requires us to be real, to be human, and this itself is every mental wellness. As I had shared with you and my story, when someone is in the throes of patterns of thought which are causing deep anxiety or deep depression, that is a very hard place to be. And there is a way that we can eloquently and in a new way address this now in the mental wellness space within our organization. So as promised, we just want to be resources. That's all we can do right now. That's the way we can help. Is I know that Jennifer had mentioned she's going to get this over to you, is the PowerPoint slides. That we have a 3-step implementation guide for you. I'm going to get you all of those questions. We just want to be a resource and let us help you in any way that we can with any of this. And I do hope that this was helpful for you in some way.
Well, Maya, thank you so much. Lots of really great information in your presentation today. Just for our audience, as a reminder, if you have some questions, if you can drop those in the chat box and we will go ahead and facilitate those. But I just want to start, Maya, we're all in a new environment and many of us, including chamber employees, are all working remotely. How do you recognize the signs of stress or draw out those signs of stress from your employees in a Zoom environment?
Yeah, in a Zoom environment, because you really can't make mention of, I mean, you can't really see because you're not in person with that. And to be honest with you, it's something that we have incorporated, obviously, because we're members of this group as well, and so much we've learned from the Chamber and Wellness A to Z. It's while we're a closer knit family, we have in our meetings, even in our gathered Zoom meetings, even started making mention of, before we go into any agendas, before we go anywhere, I just open with, how are you guys doing? Do you need anything? Do you have toilet paper? We have sent toilet paper in the mail. What do you need? While comedy certainly breaks that, it can start with a simple question of, how are you doing? Now, I know that I'm veering off from science. My friends and family and colleagues will know this about me. For those of, I'm taking a chance by saying this to all of you right now. One of the best questions that I ask a lot of our individual clients is just, how's your heart? How are you doing? You okay? And that's when we really want to invite in vulnerability. We want to invite in our humanness. And as leaders, we really have to step up to I invite all of us to step up to the plate in a way that is most authentic to you.
That's great. So Maya, you've given us obviously tons of information today. Where do we start? How do you start to implement all these different elements that you talked about today?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jennifer. So where do we get started? I know I gave you a lot and it was in a very short time frame. So you now everyone has an understanding of where does stress really come from? And you can go back to the slides and look at it in terms of your thought habits. Now we know also the differences in our programmings, what hits stress management, which is crucial, and what dives deeper should we need it. Now, our next best move, and that's always a really great question to ask yourself, is our next best move is going to be an assessment of my current organization. That's it, an assessment of where is everybody at right now, because it's at first, like we were talking with Tori last month, is what can I do to get my employees safely back to the workplace? What's going to be safe? Next, we want to think about, now that I have ticked that box and checked that, what's my next right move for them to feel safe, for them to not be overly stressed, fearful, or anxious, frustrated, or overwhelmed on an everyday basis. Now that you're back, how are you? And that starts with assessments and surveys those kinds of things, anything you can do to get in.
That's great. And I think, you know, one of the things that we've done at the Chamber is surveyed our employees just to see how they're feeling. But it seems like we have these compounding issues that are putting emotions at an all-time high. Is there a way that you can help, or businesses can help their employees navigate the just constantly changing dynamics of our current environment?
Yes, is the first thing that comes to mind, and your question is more around, because things are constantly changing, how do we maintain this sense of well-being, overall well-being? So you nailed it, actually, Jennifer, when you had put in the chat box when we were talking earlier. I'll make this brief. Essentially, the brain, which we are not, is wired for safety and survival. This is a crucial point to understand from a science standpoint. Majority of humanity, majority of our employees, we find, all of us, I'm slowing down a tad. There we go. Let me go back. Okay, I'm back. There we go. All of us find a sense of safety in our certainty, in our agendas, in our job descriptions, in our, we like sameness. When we lose the sameness, which we have done in this world, we lose our certainty, and that knocks on the door of our survival. So what an organization can do is what we had mentioned, is to have the same messaging across the board, stay open about what is going on within the organization. We're going to require a higher level of transparency, and stay consistent with that messaging. Stay consistent with what it is that you're doing in your wellness programming. Stay consistent, be transparent, and be open and honest, so they always have a sense of nothing's going on in the background that shakes my uncertainty.
That's great. Thank you so much. So you also mentioned, Maya, you know, that there's different personalities that have different stressors, right? The dramatization queens. How do you navigate those different types of personalities and those different stressors amongst a diverse group of employees?
Yeah, absolutely. The leaders, all of us that are here, it's going to be incredibly important to remain as neutral as possible. And when we remain as neutral as possible, having some kind of check-in point, and knowing that, now we'll go into obviously the thoughts and emotions for just a moment here, is that we know now where those come from. And we know now what it is that they're thinking and why their behaviors are showing this. So remaining neutral and remaining open in terms of what it is that this person needs, without our own judgment. It's going to be incredibly important to make sure that we check our less than desirable emotions and our drama and our catastrophic thinking at the door. And then when we're neutral, we can remain in a place that is much more approachable.
Really, really great point, Maya. I know we all as leaders are experiencing our own levels of stress and dealing with it very differently. So want to again thank you for your time today. Really, really great information. And I just want to bring it back to a couple things that you said in closing. Couldn't agree more. Employees are our greatest asset, and keeping our employees safe and certain and providing them that mental health awareness, I think is really critical. And then I'll also take it back to your very opening statement around the need to be kind and thoughtful. And we talk about this a lot within our team, but everybody's dealing with different levels of stress. And I think it's really key and critical that we practice kindness amongst everyone, whether in our organizations or with society as well. So again, thank you for your time today. We're getting lots of great feedback in the chat. Thanking you for a wonderful presentation. We also are planning our September WorkWell Forum. Given the fluid environment, we've left that open. as to what that content will be, but would love to hear from all of our Wellness A to Z employers on ideas that you might have, topics that you might find useful. So feel free to send those over to Melissa Diaz. And I just want to give a shout out to Melissa for helping coordinate today's WorkWell forum. I know she Maya had the conversation with you to say or around the topic and brought it back. So this was all her idea. And just again, want to thank her. And we will see you all in September. Thank you very much.